gets old, I just thought an exception would be made in my case. You know, that's the motto of the baby boomers. We have been invested in youth culture since the 1960s, and we can't believe we're actually getting old. Last Sunday, Evan Jacobs and I had a good talk. Evan is 8 years old, and he likes to remind me of a story he has heard about his baptism. When Evan was a baby and I baptized him, I walked headfirst into the Advent wreath. My head made a big clonk. Evan likes to remind me of that story. He also likes to remind me that my beard is white. Well, last week he told me again about my beard being white, so I replied like a true baby boomer. I said, "But Evan, I want to look like a kid." Evan replied, "You act like a kid, you look like a grandpa." Seldom have I been so complimented and so put in my place with one shot. I was honored and I was mocked all at once. For me, that made this a perfect conversation with Evan. It was great. Well, you know, I think it's possible that Peter felt something similar in his conversation with Jesus that we just heard. It starts out when Jesus asks Peter a question. "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these others do?" And I can just imagine Peter's thoughts. Cool! Jesus sees that I'm the one. I am his best friend. But when Jesus asked Peter the same question again, and then a third time, Peter comes back down to earth. He realizes he is being both rebuked and forgiven. Because, of course, just a few nights before, when Jesus had been arrested, Peter had lost his nerve. He was asked if he was a friend of Jesus, and he said no 3 times. So these 3 questions from Jesus are to make up for those other 3 times. Peter really does love Jesus, and it's obvious that Jesus has a special place in his heart for Peter, and I do too. Peter's story in the Gospels gives me great hope. Peter falters and fails and falls. Well, you know what? I do too. But Peter is given a fresh start by his friend Jesus. And that means I can have a fresh start too. This pattern is for anyone who tries to follow Jesus. We try, and then we falter, and we fail, and we fall. But we have to pick ourselves back up and say we are sorry, and walk on again. That pattern is vital for our relationship with Jesus. That pattern is vital for all of our relationships. Whenever I meet with a couple getting married, I always tell them that the most important 3 words they ever say to each other are, "I love you." But right after that, the next most important 3 words are these: "I am sorry," and "I forgive you." Without forgiveness, no marriage will survive. Without forgiveness, no friendship will survive. Without forgiveness, no relationship will survive. This conversation between Jesus and Peter gives me hope. We often need forgiveness, and this story says that we can find it. We also need to offer forgiveness and care to others, and this story says we can do that too. I read about a mother who had 3 young children, and one day her kids had a big blow-up, and they were fighting fiercely with each other. Mom separated the children, and she got them off to bed. Well, that night there was a thunderstorm, a fierce thunderstorm, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning. Mom heard some unusual noises in addition to the thunder. So she called upstairs and asked what was going on. And a little voice came back, "We're all in the closet forgiving each other." There is a time to forgive, and sometimes it takes a storm to remind us of that. I'm fascinated by the gentleness of the risen Jesus in the Gospels. In his ministry in Galilee, there had been a lot of storm, and there had been a lot of fire in his last days in Jerusalem. But after Easter, the storm is quiet, and the fire has burned down to a warm glow. The risen Jesus is quiet and gentle. There are no big miracles now, no thundering warnings. This humble man on the lake shore, with his hand still showing the wounds, speaks quietly. What he says is gentle and low. Love one another, he says. Care for each other. Forgive one another. Feed each other. He forgives Peter, and then he gives Peter his job. He says it 3 times. Feed my lambs. Tend my sheep. Feed my sheep. That's Peter's job now. And it's our job, too. Jesus is saying, I was the shepherd, now I'm leaving. Serve a while in my place. He only asks us to care for each other. We are to feed people, to be gentle with people, to care for other people. That's the challenge to us in this story. Sure, we can be forgiven. Yes, we can have a fresh start. But there's more for us to do. We have been forgiven. Now we need to forgive. We have been loved. Now we are to love. We have been cared for. Now it's our turn to care. It's what we do as friends of Jesus. It's what we do as human beings. It is what we do. Amen.